Back in 1998, I was just a wee lad playing games like Diablo 1 and StarCraft. Well, Maingear decided to take me back to that magical time before everything kind of went upside down with their new Retro98. Let's take a look at this thing. This is just the Silverstone box because they're just using the FLP02 from Silverstone, which is a really cool retro style case, but they're adding their own Maingear twist to it that we're gonna take a look at. Yeah. Okay, pretty cool. One minor thing that I'm actually noticing right away, they're kind of just using the foam that comes in the Silverstone box for the case, and when it's just the case, that's fine. This foam can't withstand a ton of shocks or drops or vibrations, but you can see that here, because we've got all that extra weight from our computer components, it looks like this was dropped at some point and the whole bottom just kind of shredded. Not ideal, but that's okay because the rest of the system did show up intact. I'm just a little surprised because I've opened computers from Maingear on Secret Shopper and the Doom PC, and they're just usually packaged a little nicer than this. Take me back to the beige era, back when everyone used to smoke inside, so all of your beige plastic components turned yellow over time. I love when you'd go into someone's house whose parents were smokers and you'd look at their Super Nintendo and it's yellow. They don't even smoke in the living room with the TV, but it doesn't matter. Got a little extra hardware bag from Maingear, probably power supply cables. We've got our key because we'll get to it later, but this has a lock on the front. Okay, what else we got? C13 power cable, our Wi-Fi antenna, power supply, power supply, power supply. These look like cable combs, although for which cables, I'm not quite sure. Oh, just some motherboard accessories. We've got our CPU socket cover. Keep this in case you ever have to RMA anything. SATA cables. This looks like a fan extension or RGB. Cool, so this bag was just all motherboard stuff. And then we've got some screws and some zip ties. We've also got this AMD mounting hardware, probably for the cooler that goes in the system. One thing to note, there are 4 different configurations of the Retro98. This is the lowest tier option. It's got an RTX 5070, but it's also got our only Intel CPU, a Core Ultra 7 265K. Every other tier of the Retro98 is gonna have an AMD 9800X3D, 9850X3D, or I think the top tier is a 9950X3D. Either way, they're all X3D chips, except for this guy. One thing that I love right away, it's a solid side panel. And so it is like a true sleeper. The one thing about that is that RGB, this probably isn't gonna glow very much. I think up at the top we've got some fans and maybe at the back, but otherwise any RGB that's installed is kind of useless. But the other cool thing is all on the front. So we've got these drive bays. They are openable. Okay, well, I'll do that once, yeah, let's just pop, sure, whatever. You can actually put a 5 1/4 inch drive in here. So let's say you want a Blu-ray player, or I don't even know, because I haven't had to use a 5 1/4 inch bay in over 15 years. But yeah, if you've got some cool thing that's really old, like maybe one of those little sine wave guys that people used to put on the front of their computers, you can do that. One thing to note actually is that they've got the AIO installed so that the hose is over here. You might have to flip that if you want to fit something that actually pushes all the way back. And then if you buy one of the higher end systems, I think it's the Alpha, that one is going to have a reservoir in this spot because it's custom water cooled. So depending on your actual use case, if this is just cosmetic for you, doesn't matter. But if it's not and you're going to actually use it for something, just something to think about. Another really cool 5 1/4 inch bay solution that you could use is extra IO ports on the front. However, Silverstone did something really cool here. Look at that. There's your top front case IO. It's all hidden back here, and we've got a couple of USB-A ports, a USB-C, and then it looks like a headphone jack at the very least. It's probably a mic headphone combo jack. And then if you haven't noticed already, I don't know how you can miss it, we've got a really cool power switch system. This is where it is. There's no button up here, there's no button on the side, that's not a button. That's your power button. You can actually lock the power button with the keys. Clearly doesn't physically lock the switch, so I'm guessing it just hits a relay that turns it off or something. I don't know, we'll try it once it's actually plugged in. But you should be able to lock your computer, which is pretty sweet. And then you've got a proper reset button and a turbo button. For those of you unaware, turbo buttons used to adjust your clock speed on your CPU, either to slow it down or I think sometimes it sped it up, but it was mostly to slow it down to keep the clocks in line with whatever game you were playing. Our turbo button does not affect your CPU like that. Instead, what it's going to do is just ramp up all of our fans. The labs did test this thing, and ramping up the fans does make a temperature difference, but it's not a drastic one. So I don't know, for me, it's mostly just a cool aesthetic thing. I probably wouldn't turn it on because, like, I don't know, your CPU is gonna be pretty cool anyway, but just a neat little feature to give a little throwback to the times of yore. I also love how they've got this old school like Maingear 98 logo on the bottom here. Looks like a classic early 3D logo kind of thing. One cool thing I just kind of noticed is you can see on the little board they've got back here for all these controls, it even says turbo right there. One of the cool things is that unlike, you know, building your own sleeper PC that is kind of a nightmare sometimes trying to fit modern hardware in an old case, this is a new case that just is styled in a retro way. And so it has modern features like these nice thumb screws and the, you know, the whole case pulls apart no problem. I'm gonna take a look at the back first. And of course, in classic Maingear fashion, it is beautifully cable managed. On top of easily removable panels, we've got rubber grommets. We've also got some nice cable tie-down points and some decent cable routing. And then we've also got a couple of nice 2.5-inch SSD sleds back here. Love to see it. My only other kind of complaint is that for this system with a 5070 and a Core Ultra 7 265K, we've only got a 650 watt, 80 plus gold power supply. It is a nice MSI power supply and it is 80 plus gold, which is great. I would have loved 750. This way, you know, we're kind of like really up against the limits right now, and so if you make any kind of upgrades in the future, you can probably get away with it if it's not too big of a deal, but like, you're not gonna be throwing a 5080 or 5090 in here without maybe second guessing upgrading the power supply. For instance, their 5080 version, which is just the next tier up from this, comes with an 850 watt power supply. So if that's what they're putting alongside that, it's probably what you're gonna want too. So minor issue, but you're still getting what you pay for. The price is actually relatively reasonable based on the hardware inside this. We'll get to that later. First, I want to show you the inside on this side, the good stuff. Here's our RTX 5070. It is a Founders Edition, you know, which do look pretty sexy, and they've even done their due diligence and actually managed the cable to go along it and then out instead of just dropping down into here or something that would have just been kind of lazy. So it actually looks pretty sleek. And then the really nice thing is, you know, memory is hard to come by these days, and these are two 16 gig sticks of DDR5, so we're getting 32 gigs of DDR5, pretty solid. And then we've just got a 360 millimeter AIO from Maingear right here. So whatever CPU you upgrade to, AMD or not, change the board, doesn't matter. This cooler should be plenty strong enough for it. And then as for storage, we've got a 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe drive. Those are also becoming very hard to come by. So, you know, I never thought I'd say this, but maybe it is time to buy a pre-built instead of building your own PC. I'm actually in the middle of building my own NAS right now, and let me tell you, I just spent $1,200 on hard drives, and I'm glad I did because they're basically impossible to find now just a couple weeks later. And even SSDs, I'm lucky that I already have a boot drive because even Gen 4, like 1 or 2 terabyte drives are either way up in price or just unavailable. All of our cables are pretty nicely managed. You know, it looks really pretty. I'm a big fan of having this like fully modern look, but if you get the alpha version, which is the most top tier of top tier, you get some cool like ketchup and mustard cables for that really classic red and yellow look, for those of you who want it. One other cool thing I just noticed is they've got this really cool like fan hub over here in the back. So you've actually got, if you do want to add more fans, the ones they include are actually pretty solid. We tested them and they perform better than we expected, but there's a big fan hub here. Yeah, very nice. You can also pop the top off pretty easily by just undoing this screw and then pulling that out there. If you ever need to change anything with your radiator, that's how you get at it. And once we get to the back, there are a couple of pretty cool things. One, if you did want to, there are vertical mount slots for your GPU. You're not gonna see it unless you take the side panel off. But you know, if you take that side panel off to show things off, you're probably at a LAN or something, and so it'll look pretty sick, and like, you totally could, it'd be pretty awesome. But there was one small problem. Well, it's not a big deal, but this fan is set to intake currently, and there's no mesh filter at all for dust. So your PC will maybe get a little dusty over time, but like, It's probably not that, I don't know, it's probably not that bad. The other issue though is that this motherboard, when we received it, it didn't have a little sticker over it saying, hey, don't plug your monitor into this, plug it into the graphics card. So if you're new to PC gaming, just don't use these. That's for your motherboard's onboard graphics, which thankfully the Core Ultra 7 265K has, but your performance is gonna be kind of trash if that's where you plug your monitor into. But I do love how the board also has some pretty decent I/O. I mean, we've got plenty of USB, USB-C with power delivery, and it's even got a PS2 port if you really want to complete the look and use a really old school mouse and keyboard. One thing I neglected to mention is it's got a 3D printed GPU bracket, which is great, but the only problem is it's attached over here, so you've kind of got to take your motherboard off to get the bracket off, which kind of sucks. The other thing is it did come packaged without any internal foam, like, you know, the self-expanding stuff. They do have that GPU anti-sag bracket, so it's probably fine, but I would like to see just a little bit more packing material. They usually do it, so I was kind of surprised that it didn't come with any. Overall, it looks pretty sick, and I would love to have something like this. So let's get it all put back together and fire it up after this word from our sponsor.
Private internet access. If you want to mask your IP from your ISP or sketchy third parties, it's time to get a VPN. PIA's VPN allows you to watch media from all around the world, and all you need is a single subscription to start having it work across multiple devices. It's available for Windows, macOS, Android, Linux, and iOS, practically any platform. Plus, they never record or store your data. So go to piavpn.com/shortcircuit or use our link to get a special deal with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Moment of truth. Maybe it's locked. It is. All right. Yo, the lock button works. That's so cool. And it looks like our LED screen here. I'm not sure if that 49 is our CPU temp, but it probably is. I'm not sure what else it might represent. Whoa, this is awesome. We've got the same like 3D Maingear logo set to our wallpaper here with a little 98. This thing's dope. We've got one of those dual mode monitors here, and I was about to set this to like 4K because I don't need 500 hertz, but I forgot that we've only got a 5070. So this might be one of the actual times where I do want to run at 1080p and just, cool, 500 hertz, why not? So yeah, let's do that. Let's swap that back. Now that our display is ready to go and we've got our computer all fired up, we're gonna change to 60 FPS on our camera because we're about to game. Just gonna check out some of our specs real quick here. There's our CPU. As for our memory, 32 gigs. Currently running at 4,800 megatransfers per second. I am pretty sure that there is a profile set up, but it's not enabled out of the box. So if you do buy this, because it says it was hand built by one guy, it's entirely possible that the same mistake is across every system. So we're gonna go ahead and enable all of our XMP so that we get the rated speed, because these sticks should go to like 6,000 megatransfers per second. And you know, if I paid for it, well, I didn't, but if you paid for it, then you should get it. One last thing before we do that though, I've opened up hardware info and I wanna just see if like our CPU temperature matches what's displayed there, or our GPU temps maybe, because yeah, I'm sitting at like 33C, 39C, and that's only 26, 27. Oh, okay, CPU GT cores are set to 28, so maybe it's measuring that, I don't know. Where's our GPU? Even our graphics card is measuring about 33, 34C, so I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but you know what, let's hit the turbo button. Instantly the fans crank up. Now it says HH, which I'm a little concerned about. I don't think it should say HH. I'll let you figure out why. All right, memory, 6,400 megatransfers per second, which I think is actually faster than the 6,000 that it's rated for. So I don't know if they just gave us a memory bump or what, but yeah, it's running faster than it should, so that's always great. Still haven't confirmed that the CPU temp is correct on the readout there. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that, as you can tell, or maybe not, it's a little noisy right now after I enabled XMP and restarted it. If I hit the turbo button, it's already loud and you hear new fans ramp up, and that's because it's only connected to the case fans. It's not actually affecting our AIO, which is kind of annoying. I really wish all of them were just connected to the one turbo button. Just gonna load up some Cyberpunk really quick. We did test a number of games, and guess what? They all perform like they would on a 5070 and a Core Ultra 265K with the memory and storage that we have in there. So, you know, you're not giving up any performance, you're getting what you paid for. Hell yeah. All right, RTX 5070, you know, 1080p, but we're set to ray tracing medium and we're getting like 120, 115 FPS. Pretty solid here. Cyberpunk looks great. I'm gonna blast these people. Yeah. We tested Cyberpunk, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us, Alan Wake 2, and F1. And all of those games performed as expected. As for temps, they also performed as expected. Our turbo mode does make a very minor difference, but it makes a difference. Makes sense, fans going faster, pushing more air, cooling down components. Not a huge deal, because, you know, this thing's not gonna get that hot already, but I could see it being a great feature for one of the higher end systems with the higher end hardware in them. One final unfortunate thing about this is that it is getting pretty loud. Like, this is, you know, at this point I'd like to have the computer under the desk and maybe even a separate room, because ever since we enabled XMP, I don't know if it just enabled a different fan profile or what, but I don't know, I can hear them even with the side panel on. And if you hit the turbo button, it just gets louder. To be clear, I did enable XMP and change some settings, so that might be the problem, but like, I don't know, I paid for 6,000 megatransfers per second memory. I wanna use 6,000 megatransfers per second memory. Now, as for the price, all of our hardware considered, $2,500 for this guy isn't really a bad deal, especially when you look at the prices of SSDs and RAM right now. However, if you go up to the alpha version with a 5090, it's gonna cost you $9,800, which I think is a little extreme. I don't know how much I can justify that price. I'm honestly not even sure if they were like, you know, it's $9,000, but it's the Retro98. We should just charge $9,800. From a marketing perspective, sure, I agree. From a user perspective, I'm not so sure if I'm personally willing to shell out for the top tier system. This one though, I think it's reasonable considering what you're getting. But if you don't want to do that, you know, Maingear does offer pretty good support when it comes to pre-builts. Check out Secret Shopper. You can get the FLP02 from Silverstone for about $250. It's still an expensive case, but it's honestly pretty solid, and you're getting something that's very unique. And so at that point, I like this case. I kind of want to buy one myself just to build my next computer in it, whenever that may be. And you know what, I'm not really sure when the end of this video is gonna be. Maybe it's now. Thanks for watching. I'm Plouffe, this is ShortCircuit. If you wanna check out another one, check out the Doom PC. That was also from Maingear, and it was also very cool.